Good morning, Lagos, and thank you for joining us on Freshly Pressed 981. It's a segment of Smooth Breakfast with Valentine Ohu.
And Ayo Mairo Ese. Good
Welcome to
morning,
the
Lagos.
studio. Thank you. Good morning. And join the conversation by sending messages through WhatsApp 0809 4440981. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. And the hashtag is Freshly Pressed 981. Whose birthday is it today?
Happy
The one and
birthday
only.
to you.
Oh, boy.
Happy birthday to you.
The whole
Happy
song?
birthday, Adenike.
Ah,
Thank you so
Wow.
much.
Happy birthday.
Adenike
Those
Oyetunde's
pictures, Sha.
birthday.
I haven't seen it. Go to our
Hey.
Instagram.
Honestly, Adenike Oyetunde.
The contours were popping.
Fire.
Wow.
This is
Wow.
good.
Thank
The
you so
lighting,
much,
amazing. I felt like I was looking at
The
heaven.
parties in Valentine's house is a combined celebration. Thanksgiving
The
and
crowd goes
birthday.
wild. Well
Thank you
done.
very much. Yes.
Adenike, welcome.
Thank
You
you.
can chat with her during the conversation at Denike Oyetunde on Twitter. Ugo Dre is at Ugo Dre. Ugo, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. All right, let's start with our stories. Remember, we're streaming live on YouTube, and you can use the chat option. There's a section on the right side of the thing to chat with us and also subscribe.
All right, moving on to our first story. Adenike, I'm starting with you, birthday girl. Oshiomhole vows to remain APC chair despite sacking order. So the APC crisis in Edo State took a new turn yesterday when the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Oshiomhole, was suspended by the court from being national chair. Please take us through this story. He's saying that he'll still remain chair and no one is going to be unstoppable. Please take us through the story.
Okay, so an application was filed on the 16th of January this year by Oluwole Afolabi, and with Oshiomhole and the APC as first and second respondents, respectively. And the applicant's contention was that Oshiomhole, it was and is currently suspended by the party as a member of the APC for Ms. Esako Ward 10 in Edo State. And for that, he was wondering why he was still holding himself out as the chairman of the political party. So yesterday, the High Court of the High Court of FCT Division in Jabi District upheld, I beg your pardon, the suspension of Oshiomhole pending the determination of the substantive suit, and also saying that Oshiomhole must not be accorded benefits from the APC and must not be allowed to continue to parade himself as the chairman of the party, and not be granted access to the party secretariat. Well, Oshiomhole's counsel, more like his media aide, spoke and said that they have actually gone to the higher court, and that's the appellate court, to void the suspension from the party, and by doing so, it means that they have simply filed a stay of execution and appealed the ruling. And with those processes, Oshiomhole remains the national chairman of the party, as the case may be. But the APC, however, said that they will respect the decision of the court, which upheld the suspension of Oshiomhole. It's just one drama after the other, and one of the most beautiful things about it is High Court will give an interlocutory order on something pending the determination of substantive suit. You can actually challenge that back and forth. But it's interesting that it doesn't feel like the APC as a whole and Oshiomhole are speaking with one voice, because if Oshiomhole's representatives are saying, and him himself are saying that he'll continue to hold his position, and that's simply because they have filed for a stay of execution, and the party is saying, oh no, we're going to stick with what the court said,
That's
that
right.
he's suspended. You wonder what is really going on. But I guess the
So
time will
what will
tell.
be, exactly,
You know.
what's going to happen? And obviously I would assume that the court should take precedence and that they should obey the
And the court
rulings of the
will,
court.
but it's even the court process that allows you to challenge that ruling. And if truly a stay of execution has been granted, then it means that status quo will be maintained. He will still be held as chairman
chair.
of the APC. Substantive suit comes up in sometime in April.
Okay.
So then you will know what goes on from there. So
All right. Thank you.
MI from Akoka says, Dear comrade, this is not about vowing. We are law-abiding people. Until such a time where the court rules otherwise, you are to adhere strictly to its ruling. You should be more concerned about the loud silence of the big shots within your party.
Very loud.
And Oge says, anything Adenike says today is correct. Hello, happy birthday to you.
Thank you again.
And Vincent from Ibejuleki says Adam Oshiomhole is not using the right words. He talks too much, and this is not helping the APC.
I think we need to also understand that we also have newspaper headlines that can be sensational. So it might not be a direct quote from him, just expressing his sentiments that he would still, and Adenike has broken that down, the reason why that was inferred. Thank you very much. Move on to our next story, Ugo, and it's on coronavirus. It's an update on this, and this was reflected in a number of newspaper stories. And again, if you watch any news story, you'd see that coronavirus is dominating as should be most news stories. Coronavirus, Nigeria's revenue reduces. 2020 budget may be reviewed, and this is according to the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, who said the outbreak of the virus has negatively impacted Nigeria's oil revenue, and so a midterm review of the 2020 budget will be carried out to reflect the realities on ground. Economic impact. Please take us through this.
Yeah, at the time that we were setting the 2020 budget, our oil prices was about $7 or so per barrel. I think that was Brent crude, and so the budget benchmark was $57. So which seemed reasonable at the time, yeah. But then Corona, sets in. Nobody was expecting this year at all. Even those of us that tried to predict the economy and come up with all this economic outlook, nobody ever saw this virus coming, and it's affecting supply chains around the world. So because of the virus, a lot of businesses are cutting down on production. So cutting down on inventories because you can't move these things around. Countries are closing borders. People are a bit more, well, not necessarily closing borders, but travel restrictions all around across the world. And then China, which is actually a very, very important country when it comes to production and supply chains across the world, is basically in standstill. In fact, the Chinese now, like I said earlier, are now saying don't even come into our country with coronavirus because they've been able to contain their own. So they don't even want you to come back. So that is impacting on oil prices, and so oil prices has now fallen. In fact, they're predicting that it will drop to as low as $45 per barrel, which is a huge problem for Nigeria. So if it persists, then it's very likely that the government will have no choice but to go back to the National Assembly and maybe come up with a revised budget. Now, the impact, the economic impact, of course, is that government's revenue will drop, and then the government revenue drops. It means that there will be more borrowings. Yes, more borrowings, and if there's more borrowings, that's not good. We're already worried at the rate of borrowing of this government. This is a government that has gone through the last 4 years with very, very low government revenues and have basically increased our debt, external debt, and even local debt as well. They've also been borrowing from the CBN as well. So even the CBN is tired of lending to the government. So this is not a good situation. I would hope that this is a virus that maybe perhaps nature could just sort of deal with. I'm hoping that maybe if the winter sort of eases and hot weather comes in, maybe, and you never know. That's what I'm hoping would happen.
Thank you, Ugo. But in light of this, if in the case where we now go to that route to borrow more, is there an immediate consequence that we could avoid, or something that it's possible?
Yeah, so borrowing more just puts the country in a more precarious situation already. I was reading a report from S&P 2 days ago, and they also have downgraded Nigeria, and one of their reasons, of course, was Nigeria's rate of borrowing, and the attendant effect on the exchange rate and the economy as a whole. So it's not something that we hope that would happen. The government is already on track to borrow over 2 trillion this year alone in the current budget, so that's a lot of money. There's a Eurobond that they're planning as well. So you don't want government borrowing unnecessarily just because of all these short-term issues, because I think this is a short-term problem that might go. There's also some positives here. She did say that production, we are now doing above $2 million, so 2 million barrels. So you gotta clap, because it's not something that happens all the time in Nigeria. So we're doing above 2 million barrels per day. So that might cushion the effect of the drop as well. So, but take solace. Nigeria is not the only one affected. We're hearing that the Olympics might also
Tokyo
be
Olympics
moved.
might be postponed.
And then guess what? James Bond. That
Yeah.
movie might
Till
not
November,
just-
I
And
think
guess
so.
what? That's now the name of the movie makes sense to
No
me.
time-
No time
no
to
time
die.
to
No
die.
time to die.
So many things being affected by this, and so we need to understand the impact.
Yeah.
In Italy, it was
Yeah.
reported earlier that The schools and universities will be closed until March 15th. A number of people have closed, their borders, like you mentioned. Also, we didn't mention this yesterday, but Dangote, Aliku Dangote, has committed 200 million naira to the fight against, or to help cushion the effect of coronavirus in Nigeria.
And I'm sure after that story, you saw all the antagonism that, or rather the cynicism that's coming from different party stakeholders.
The president commended him and thanked him for. And
I mean, Shehu Sani on one part, Obasanjo on another part, asking to see the man in question, the Italian man, saying, almost suggesting.
I trust Nigeria to politicize everything. I mean, but the fact is that this is huge. If it persists, there's going to be a lot of problems down the road. I think I mentioned that earlier in Business Express. Supply chain is very, very important to any country, and if you import a lot, it affects every single thing that we do, even construction of roads, execution of capital projects.
I find it interesting that you mentioned supply chain, but there's been some rumors milling around that that could affect supply of petrol. PMS
yes, I think
in
it's
the
one
country,
of the stories.
because there are rumors, from Daily Times, and that's the story I want us to get to.
Okay.
The Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency debunked that fear, saying that they have, the way I described it when I saw that, they said it's an over-sufficiency for several months. They named January having supply or sufficiency of 41.34 days. Just debunking the rumor generally, saying, no, we're ready, we're prepared.
I mean, that's what you'd expect government to say. Government would not, admit immediately that, they don't have enough supply in the country, because that would just create panic and hoarding. So that's why they are saying that, look, there's enough, don't even panic at all. We've got 41 days cover, which is what you expect. But this is a game that has a lot to do with time. So if this persists, like I said, if it goes on for another 2-3 months, and the contagion spreads in Europe and a lot of the countries where we import petroleum products from, then it will hit us. It's just not two ways about it, because this is already hitting supply chains. Apple, the biggest company in the world, has already cut down on iPhone sales. They've already said that their outlook is that, look, it's going to affect our iPhone sales down the line, and that's because a lot of the inputs for the iPhone is being manufactured in China.
Yes.
And
most of
some other
the
countries.
bigger factories are
exactly. So that's the supply chain we're talking about. So whether it's the country that we're importing oil from, transporting it across shipping lines, countries are a bit more circumspect about how goods are moving across their borders or their seas. So it's not a joke. That's why I said here that, look, if it goes on to the second quarter, right, then if we're doing 43 days, which is good, I don't think that in 6 months' time the government is going to come back here and say, look, that we have enough. You would see, that scarcity happen.
And that also,
I hope that it doesn't.
Thank you. That's just looking at it from the petrol angle. There was this there's this talk, advice that comes with the other health advisory that's been coming in about protecting ourselves with coronavirus. Among that, we have people advising that generally people should actually stock up on food items in their houses. At first read, you think it's only for people who are in those areas that are most affected. But looking at the economic outlook around the world, how it affects prices of goods and services based on import duties and things like the scarcity of products generally, how do you think the ordinary Nigerian man should prepare for this?
So if the WHO, for example, declares there's a global pandemic, then that's a problem. That is the first red flag. And if it starts to spread, then what it means is that governments will now start to contain areas and locations, and that's why a lot of economists will tell you to start to keep a bit more cash and then start to stock up your house, because if it gets worse, I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but if it gets worse, they start to tell you, oh, you can't go to schools like it's happening in the UK, stay at home. So you can't go out, so you have to stock up food supplies and all the things that you need in your house so that you're fine. And then cash is more important then, because then you have to start to pay. People want to see raw cash. It's not an Armageddon, but you know how these things can spiral out of control, and that's why you see everybody scrambling, and that's actually why the US stock markets and global stock markets fell 2 days ago, because people were really, really worried. But the thing is that the health officials also came again and sort of like calm everybody down. And look, we've got this under control. It's not as bad as you think. I think initial reports are also suggesting that look, it affects older people more than it does young people. So that at some point that maybe it's not as bad as we think.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We're still on coronavirus for our next story, and this is just as a follow-up to the story that we had yesterday. Adenike, I don't know if you listened into the show where we talked about the fact that the House of Reps had voted to suspend plenary for the next 2 weeks in order to, as their own way of containing the spread of coronavirus. However, following calls or the condemnation of Nigerians on Twitter, and also an interview on a television station by the Director General of NCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, who said and echoed some of the concerns of Nigerians, saying that this will spread panic. Because if you, as representatives, decide to go on break, people then think, oh, this must be a big deal. Should I close my business? Should I do this? Da, da, da. Please take us to the story.
And just declare public holidays till it's interesting because the NCDC Director General on his Twitter timeline, I remember seeing that he put it out there how people have been carrying stories that he's been quarantined, and he just said, look, this is a self-isolation procedure because he visited China, and for whatever it is worth, he's tested negative, but he still wants the incubation time to see what happens, and he cannot wait to return to work. Now, this is someone who is in charge of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, who visited China. So my question is, the House of Representative members who desire to suspend plenary, of what essence will this have on the fight against coronavirus? As it is now, people are hearing about one former president say that he never came into Nigeria. You begin to wonder what is really going on with us, and I think it's just a flippant and yet another reflection of how they do not consider us as important. I wish they had, concretely stated why they saw the need for them to suspend plenary. Maybe then we would have understood why. Maybe they have Chinese nationals who are supposed to visit the National Assembly, maybe to bid for a contract or two. Maybe because really,
why do they have security stops?
But reality about it, if this, for instance, nationals from that part of the world or people you suspect should have been exposed were supposed to visit the National Assembly, you may not get on the spot, proof that they are living with the coronavirus.
Wouldn't it be cheaper for us if they suspended or postponed the meeting instead of suspending plenary?
That's why I say I don't know. You people.
Because there are bills that are waiting to be passed.
It just
bills
feels
are just
like.
past second reading last week.
But it's important. It's just important to know that they actually did hold plenary yesterday. Yes. So just maybe they wanted to test the water and see, and then when they just see we'll bounce back. So that's how work.
Because Corona is in the midst.
Yeah. So, I want to read what the Director General said verbatim. He said
I wanted to just translate Ejeka.
Okay.
So let's just throw it at them. Let's see if they'll catch
it. Okay. My interpretation. Okay, he said if they respond by suspending sessions, everyone else will begin to think: should I close my business? Should I close my office? Should I close my school? It is disproportionate at this time. I think what the honorable members should do is supporting the work we are doing, the technical work that the experts are doing. Give us your support, give us sustainable budget so that we can develop the expertise. And I think that's a wise man that has clearly spoken. So
thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. We have some comments. Vincent here says this coronavirus is seriously affecting the global economy. Please let our national economic team be at work at this point in time to see what can be done.
And Chika Agina from Marina said, this is going back to an old story. But we'll move on from that. Let's take the next story.
Yes, another one that was made quite a headline yesterday, Ugo, is that the president removes Peter Side, appoints Jamo as NIMASA Director General. This report is from the Punch newspaper, and Jakubu Peter Side is no longer the DG for NIMASA, and now appointed by the president is Jamo. Please take us to the story.
Who is Jamo?
Let's be careful with some of the sensational headlines again. Punch headline says Buhari removes Peter Side, appoints Jamo, and they claim that they got the story from the cable. If you go to the cable says exclusive. Buhari picks Bashir Jamo to replace Peter Saidat as Nimasa DG. Excuse me. So it's not Buhari removing. Peter Saidat's tenure ends March 10th, 2020. He's been DG Nimasa since 2016. So that's just
His tenure ended.
yeah. His
Well,
tenure ended.
he was up
Yeah.
for a renewal if the president was happy with
Yeah, but it wasn't
Yeah, but
compulsory.
it's not compulsory and it's not automatic.
It's at the
right?
discretion of the
So-
It's
president.
almost similar to what
Yeah.
happened with the FIRS boss. So it
Same
was the
thing.
same headline.
Yeah, but you were not
It's
removed.
the removal.
Because when you say remove, it's as if that they didn't wait for you to your tenure ended, and I guess the better headline would have been Buhari refuses
did
to
not renew.
Yeah, did not renew.
Because what that does is,
this,
you're right. It skews sentiments. It skews people's mentality.
Yeah.
Start thinking tribalistic.
In fact, some of the stories already are like, because the person that was appointed was from Kaduna, and if you read some of the comments,
Yes.
on social media and even the article itself in the cable, people are saying, look, why not replace with somebody from same geopolitical zone? Why take this to Kaduna or to the north? And then stories of always appointing people.
And then that now begs a question: is it a political appointment or an appointment by merit?
It's a political appointment for which kind of merit? I mean, like it's a political appointment. Don't even get
What
it twisted.
qualification would
Yeah,
you
don't even get
require?
it twisted. They have the technocrats who run the massa, so those ones are the people that are there by merit. But this is just it's a DG, so it's at the discretion of the president to determine whether he wants a technocrat to run it or whether he wants
To be fair
a political person.
To be fair to the commenters, Ugo, would you say that again it doesn't do the president much service to see that the same thing he has been accused of, which is appointing from a particular area and people that he knows, he's doing the same thing? It almost seems as if he's not really bothered by people opposing that. He would still go ahead and appoint according to what he thinks.
Yeah, I think that he's been quite consistent with that, and it doesn't help that he feeds into that rumor or that belief that that's what he likes to do. But again, I mean, that's Buhari for you.
Again, I remind you guys.
And I don't like to. I mean, most important thing, like Val said, is it there at a merit? Is he going to change things? Because whether it's somebody from my village or from my next door neighbor or from where, I really don't care really. Because at the end of the day, everybody's in the same boat, and I mean, these guys all know where they all hang out at the end of the day and party together. So please, I beg, whether it's from his village or from his town or from the next town, I really don't care personally. I mean, just deliver. That's all.
In July of 2019, the president, in his maiden address to the National Assembly, said, "I will appoint," and this is me paraphrasing his statement, "I will appoint people I know."
Yeah, I mean, that's what I
the
said.
second term. So
He's been consistent about it,
Yeah.
and he's not really
he said it.
bothered. I mean, I don't like the fact that you constantly appoint people from a particular geopolitical zone. I mean, it borders around nepotism and things like that.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, in this country, I've not seen where trying to balance geopolitical appointment has actually helped anybody. It's not like by putting it in this zone or putting it in that zone, they give you different results. It doesn't. That's just my...
Benga Kamu says the new appointee for Nimasa DG comes qualified for the position, but this is Nigeria. We never know. It's a political appointment. Adenike, Nigerian government moves to Nigerian government moves to flush out unlicensed teachers from schools. They had given a deadline of December 2019. There was a bit of an extension just to give teachers room to regularize their registration with the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. But this time around, they're giving a deadline from next week. It's March 9th to 17th. The test, the first phase of the test to see the compliance level of teachers across Nigeria. Your thoughts?
Okay, so I like that in this entire article, I like that they have stated that it will be a continuous exercise. So if for whatever reasons you cannot meet up with the 9th of March and the end of and its end by the 17th, it means that their offices will continue to register teachers. However, the exercise will be put on hold in 3 states, in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, due to challenges and for obvious reasons. So it's necessary for Nigerians to understand that what they are trying to do is to ensure that no unlicensed teacher will be permitted in a private or public school capacity to teach any student. And they claim that this is, we understand that this is global best practice. And you will take whatever verification documents you have, they will verify, and then most likely give you a registration confirmation that would allow you or permit you to continue to teach in this capacity. So yeah, my only question is, do they intend to go to the interlands? My parents live in Baduri. Hey, my mother has told me to stop saying this thing.
Sorry.
People in the
But
village,
go on. Let's
that
just
place
breeze
think
past
that
it.
I victimize.
Uh-huh.
Well, my parents live in Baduri, and honestly, there are quite a few number of Jelosimi schools there. Jelosimi schools
Few.
are, yes,
Adenike,
yes.
I've been to Baduri.
No, I'm saying they don't live in the cooperative. Like
Oh, so-
Baduri, corporate. No, they live in the village itself.
Yes.
And I recently did see a school, wooden, like wood, and you could tell that this is all that they can afford. So they have patronage, they have clientele. So my question to the Nigeria, what's it called, the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria and the Lagos State Education Board is, will teachers in these same places be affected? If they will not be affected, and it means we're defeating the essence of not allowing our students be taught by people who are not qualified.
But then I looked up the requirements by the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, what they ask for before registering teachers. They said 2 recent passports, photocopies of each of certificates, birth certificates or affidavits, states or local government or area of origin, and SSC and NECO certificates, all NECO certificates. Photocopies of each certificate. What certificates? I'm just curious to know that. But if you have further information, please message us on WhatsApp and let us
So
know.
it means that these things are readily at their disposal. So
Yes.
you should have at least O level. And it raises question as to at what point in time would we revisit the qualification of the people who teach our children?
Yes, because they're supposed to be getting regular training, supposed. Ugo, the federal government said they've uncovered, as an extension of the zero policy on corruption, they've uncovered 23 ways officials divert public funds. Getting information is one. How do you use that information? How do you expect the federal government to use this information?
Well, since they know how people steal money, and go and block it now. It's not by listing the 24 items, but very interesting list, and I think everyone should go and get this story so that you can look at the list here. Some of them are there's one here: failure to implement projects for which funds have been provided, embezzlement of funds made for payment of personnel. Different types here.
Even payment of funds that are supposed to be going to accruing to TSA.
Yes, that's also one. And then ghost workers is also another way of
contract inflation.
Yeah, in different types. Yeah, and it's basically and every year I think that they invent new ones. Shame. This is just different style of corruption from the public service. I even think they missed out some. I think they missed out things
conversion
like
of government assets to personal use.
Yeah, budget padding. They missed that one. I mean, that is something that.
What agencies ringing ahead? MDAs.
All of them. Mostly MDAs though. Ministries. I mean, like all of them. Yeah. Because when you see civil servants and you see them all feeling fat and looking really good, it's not clear eye, man. Don't look at it. Even nepotism is one. Blackmail, different things that they do just so that they can get an edge.
And there's also a part of the story that you might find interesting if you read through the details. It's published on the New Telegraph copy today. They're suggesting that they take the whistleblower policy abroad. So
to export it.
To export it, yeah. So you're in the US, any Nigerian that is paying money or building property.
That would be very effective because I feel like you may feel more protected. You feel a bit more protected abroad. I'm able to just whisper into the ears of someone that matters. Go and check number ABC.
They'll probably be paid in dollars. Happy birthday, Adenike.
Thank you so much.
Any party?
Yeah, we're partying Valentine's house.
I don't know about that. Ugo Dre, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Join us next for the Grapevine 981.
Access to
My
notes
God.
from Page Financials.
Thank you very much.
All right,
you.
thank
Page
you.
Financials, taking you further.